Hi, everybody. This is Evzeverdakis with Holistic Healing Astrology, and I have a special guest for you. This is a nice surprise. Her name is Sierra Stoll, and she is a very talented and ethical tarot reader. And what we're going to talk about is probably what's always been on your mind when you want to go see a reader. So we're going to give you some information. I have a whole list of about 12 questions, and please submit any questions in the comments below. If you like the video, you know what to do. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe, because we're going to have more guests coming along to make things more interesting. So Sierra, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Sierra, for taking time out of your schedule, and because we know how busy things are around the holidays, but we made it happen. The first question I have for you is, what got you interested in tarot reading?
So my mother actually got me interested in tarot cards and tarot readings. When I was little, she bought me my first deck. And I believe that she kind of was hopeful that I would read cards for her in fun for her friends. And it just started from there. And then I fell in love with tarot and developed a more spiritual connection to it, rather than it just being a fun dinner party activity. And that's how it all began.
So I'm going to ask you another question based on that one. What kind of surprised you when you were doing the readings? What was like a revelation that you had when you started doing readings?
You mean when I was young? Or
yeah, like you started out by, it was supposed to be entertainment, and then you did anything change? Tell me how you feel about that.
So when I was little, at around 10 years old, and I was reading for my mom and some of her friends, I was still a beginner. So I was just reading the interpretation from the book, pull a card, this is what it says. And even at a young age, I realized how powerful these messages were, because a lot of these, and they were women, her friends, were having, really healing experiences just from hearing an interpretation from the book. And I think that that was the beginning for me of realizing how deep I was able to connect with these adults, right? I didn't have the same level of experience or comprehension or understanding from a lack of life experience of how this was really relating to them on a much deeper level. And I think that just seeing the profound healing that it was bringing these people, this was for them just supposed to be something fun, and it was really transformative for them. And that was kind of the beginning of me realizing, wow, there's a lot more to this than anyone else had realized, including myself.
Wow, that's powerful. So then I'm going to jump forward. I'm going to go back and forth if it's okay.
Of course.
So what made you decide to go pro, to be a professional?
So I've been reading my whole life for the most part, and I never really saw it as something I wanted to do professionally to begin with. It was just something I really enjoyed for myself. It was a great tool to reflect on life experiences and stay connected spiritually, and a great tool to kind of connect with other people in my life as well. And I just had lots of positive feedback from everyone in my whole life, oh, wow, you're so good. You should really consider doing this professionally. And, up until now, right now, there's a bit of a fad in terms of tarot and this kind of work. But when I was younger, it was very still much a taboo. This wasn't something that was widely accepted or thought of as cool or interesting. It was kind of a, so it wasn't really something I thought of as a possibility of something to explore potentially as life work. It wasn't until I really started to become much more spiritual in myself and was evolving that I started to see the importance of tarot, whether that be free readings or even professionally. And because I just really started to feel more connected to tarot, and the healing that that can bring was the more, and of course, positive feedback from other people and how much it was helping them. It was like, okay, this is definitely a direction I want to go in. But again, financially, it's like, well, how do I step into this direction when it's not really in our society considered, a status position, and there's not really a whole lot of, you know, money associated with this type of work, right? It's kind of you're just kind of hoping that it will work out. And I taught a bunch of friends of mine how to read cards, and they started going out and offering readings. And I remember feeling so shocked by that because I wasn't going out and doing readings. And I felt like, well, experience with the deck and with life itself is really important before going out and offering readings to people. And I think the more that I saw inexperienced people going out to give readings, the more that I felt it was important for me to go out and give readings. And it was also something that I really loved. So it was kind of the combination. And it's always been a desire of mine to help others and help other people heal and find their own tools to healing. So it just kind of fit perfectly. And a friend of mine passed away this past year, and that really was like the fire sparked under my butt to just say, it's time to move in this direction. It's really time for you to do this. And I was working as a waitress. I was working a lot of hours, and I had suddenly developed stress fractures in my feet. And so spiritually speaking, I thought, well, I'm not really walking my path. And that's really a sign from the universe, from my body, that I need to start moving in this direction and really connect with my true path, which is to provide healing and reassurance and compassion and love and understanding to everyone and help, in whatever way I could. And so that's really kind of what sparked me on doing tarot professionally.
Wow, that's an interesting and a pretty powerful story. I like that. And I always feel comfortable when I don't always know who's going to do my readings because I'm very spontaneous. It's like, oh, I want to call a reader, and I don't do it that often. I usually do it for validation, but I'm glad this is coming up because it's good to know, because it's a trust factor too. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that you're not you're in good hands. Let's put it that way. So, what limitations can I expect with a tarot reading? Are there any limitations?
Well, just with most things, I feel like there are, of course, limitations depending on the experience of the tarot reader, right? So just like if you go to a doctor and you meet a doctor who has been in the field for 40 years versus meeting someone who's just graduated med school, right? There's going to be a little bit of a difference there in terms of their own limitations based on their experience. So I think that that can kind of be, an element to limitations just based on someone's experience. When it comes to readings, in terms of what I would say that, sometimes people have this idea that tarot card readers are fortune tellers, and that, with that idea, it almost takes away your free will. And I very much believe that we all have free will. So that for me, there's not this element of a fortune telling, right? I'm not going to read the future for you. I can read your energy and where you are now. And based on that, we can see, well, if we stay in this energy, this is the direction that we're moving. And so I think that those things can play a part in terms of, limitations. Also, like if you're looking for an exact answer, like, sometimes that can be a little challenging because there's never a direct yes or no, good or bad, right? We're all learning, and every experience has different elements to it, not just one or the other. So I think sometimes people can come in and say, oh, when am I going to get married? Or is it going to be this person? And again, that goes back to that fortune telling part. Like, you are an essential part of the direction that things are going in. And so I think that that can kind of be a limitation, is where people think, oh, you're going to tell me whether this is going to happen or not. And that again takes away from our free will, right? We're a participant in where the direction things are going. So how we think, our emotional state, the actions we take, those are all a big part of moving in a certain direction. So I think that that can kind of be a limit, but it can be beneficial because it helps you realize, look, if this is the direction I want to go, I can alter or adjust my energy in a certain way, or my thinking, or my emotional state, like vibrationally, to kind of move in the direction I really want to go.
So that brings me to the next question. It's, how can a tarot reading help a client? You mentioned that it gives direction. You mentioned too that it's a healing. Can you go a little bit deeper into that? Maybe use an example, or just for the people that are afraid
Oh, yeah.
to get a reading, you know? I know a lot of people are afraid to come to me
Yeah.
too, because I don't know why, but then maybe they're not as curious as I am, but that's okay.
Well, I think that due to history and the way that our society has kind of looked at this type of work for a while, or kind of labeled it, that people can be very afraid. So I get that a lot. But I think that for me, I see tarot as a great tool for one, validation. I think that it's a great tool for connecting to our deeper selves, to what we truly want. Sometimes we get the monkey mind, right? And we're just all over the place and we have a mental fog, and our emotions can kind of cloud the direction we want to go, the truth about ourselves, the situation, about others. And so I think that tarot can really benefit seeing things from a new perspective. Having a fresh perspective on any situation, I feel, can really catapult you in a new direction, or even help you move forward with whatever it is that you are trying to work on, whether it be love or money or work, housing, living, whatever that is. It can kind of give you a new perspective, right? So it changes your vibrational state to look at things in a new way, which is really helpful to going in the direction that you're really wanting to go. So I think that tarot can be great for that. Validation, like you said, is one of the things that I love about having someone come to me who's never had a reading before, because what comes up is usually very validating for them, right? And that's a big part of this type of work, is being able to validate things for people, because that helps them really connect at a deeper level to what's happening, or to the work itself, and seeing how can this really benefit me. Since this is validating, that means that, you know, the guidance and healing that's coming through this, I can also kind of be open to, right? Because they're validating what I'm experiencing. So I think that if people just really are needing to feel connected, right? I think that all of us have moments in our lives, like you were saying, where it's like, oh, I'm feeling scattered, or I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, I'm really nervous about this situation, and, or will I ever find love? Which again goes back to that nervous energy, not trusting. So I feel like going to a tarot reader really helps realigning your thoughts and emotional and vibrational state to where you're wanting to go. I think that it can really help, again, seeing different perspectives, different angles, different paths that you can take to help you get to your goal sooner. Or sometimes even just when we're so clouded with emotion, whether that be grieving or loss, that sometimes we can forget these truths, right, that are inside of ourselves, how to respark that energy inside of ourselves again. Or where is the healing that we really need? Is it in our mind? Like, is it just our thoughts that are keeping us trapped? Or is it a situation that's really emotionally draining? And sometimes just having someone say, look, this looks really draining to you. It's like, yes, you know, and then it validates and go, this is really draining. And just having someone else kind of, you know, shine a light on it helps you go, I do need to take a step back from this, or I do want to do more of this because this is something that's really fulfilling to me. So it can kind of highlight those things that you already know. Like you said, a validation that helps you kind of stick to the path and realign with having trust and faith in the universe and yourself and where things are going. I don't know if that
Yes.
answered.
Yeah, so it keeps people on their soul's path and course.
Yes, I'd like to think so. Definitely.
Yeah. So I got another question. because I've done psychic readings as well. And I do a little of both, but I'm not a tarot reader. So that's why I'm curious to see where we overlap and where we're a little different. Um, so how often can we get a tarot reading, and when is it too much, if there's ever such a thing?
I definitely think that there is such a thing as too much tarot.
Mhm.
I think that just like anything else, too much of a good thing, right? Can flour, sugar, whatever it is, moderation is key. And also like the intent behind what you're using it for. So sometimes uh, I personally think you can get a reading anytime as long as there's not this obsessive quality to it,
Mhm.
right? Or that we're looking so constantly for answers outside of ourselves. So the tarot is a great tool to help us realign with what we know to be true and to stay the course of towards what we really want. And I think that if you're doing your own readings, it can be good to do it whenever you feel the need, as long as it's not a reliant on the cards to help you constantly reconnect. So that's really important, I find. I do know some people who can go to extremes with tarot, especially with like love readings and things like that, becoming again dependent on an outside source for when is this coming? What is this? That again takes away from the trusting, so you can have as many readings as you like, but I think that it's important that when you're having your readings, you're actually taking away something powerful from that. And you're going to probably need time to reflect and process the information. How can I use this now that I've accepted it consciously into a subconscious level and really use these tools in a beautiful way moving forward? And that, if you're doing them constantly, you're kind of missing that reflective part of it. Um, just like when I read a really good book that's really deep, right? I can't just read the whole thing in one sitting. I need to really sit with the words. Sometimes it's just a paragraph and it's so deep and profound that I really need to sit with it and allow it to sink in and see how that can, affect different parts of my life or what I'm doing. And so the same is true, I believe, for tarot. So again, as long as it's not an obsessive thing, or a constant expectation to use it as a tool to constantly say yes or no, or, I think that again, that goes back to experience and tying in life experience, right? Things are not always black and white, and bringing that knowledge into your readings, right? So I think that it's important that it's a tool that's used to help people reconnect, but not to an extreme. I don't know if I
Yes.
explained that well.
No, you explained, I like this conversation because when I went to tarot readers, it was like a guessing game. So I really never knew what to expect. And I hope that the audience gets some good information from this, because I'm learning right now. And you put things very clearly as far as, you know, it's really our own energy and it's enhancing us, and you're able to kind of draw it out. It's similar to astrology, all this divination stuff. Um, but it's really, we're in control. It's just sometimes we don't discern and we lose track, et cetera, et cetera. So I have my own theory on how my readings work, but I was curious to see uh what you like, as simply as you can. How does it work, and how would you describe the process, and where do the answers come from? It's all like together.
um, so let's see, the process for me would be to begin with, I like to center myself. I like to do a grounding or meditation exercise. I really feel like it's important to connect with your client before you start the reading. Some people are not comfortable opening up about what they want the reading on, and that's okay. I find that it's really helpful. It's great when they don't want to open up about it because you can validate what's going on really quickly. But at the same time, during the reading, it's much easier to help them if you know what's going on, like where they are in their process of thinking about things, where they are spiritually, because all of those things are impacting the reading. So really taking the time to connect with your client is very important. You know, feeling their energy. It's really important that the client has some form of trust with you. It's not vital because you can still give them a great reading, but I think that it really helps them to really feel connected and to feel like you are present with them. And, you know, I think that's a big part of reading the cards. So I like to have, I like to smudge the space. So this is a part of my grounding ritual, cleansing the space, creating an open space energetically for the client and what we're about to do. Of course, I like candles and I like to have crystals and almost, you know, all the 4 elements for the most part here at the table. I usually will do something with my cards to really purify them, even though it's an intention, and meditate over the cards to really clear the energy out of readings I've done with other clients or with myself. And then I sit across from my client and I do my best to open dialogue about what we're doing. And then right away, while they're kind of opening up about what the reading is about, I have them shuffle the cards. So as they're shuffling the cards and opening up, then they don't have to. Sometimes it can be internal, right? But that energy is being put into the cards. So, and there's no wrong or right way to shuffle, right? That's all a part of their energy. While as they're moving things around, that's really shifting things, that's shifting the meanings. The cards all have very different meanings, and the order really has a lot to do with where the reading goes. So as they shuffle the cards and discuss what they are experiencing and what they're curious about, that gives us time to really connect before we begin. And then I have them split the deck, and then I just start from the deck that they have selected, start reading the cards. And I usually try to stick with the traditional Celtic cross spread, which, you know, there's many different spreads and they're all great for different reasons, but especially for new clients, I like to use the Celtic cross. It's very helpful in kind of seeing where someone's energy is subconsciously, where their energy is going consciously, what the environment is around them, you know, it's either supporting them or kind of hindering their growth or the direction that they're wanting to go in. So that's really highlighted. And then from there, I usually will just right away start reading the story that I see coming through. And I like to remind them as I'm doing the reading, you know, that the outcome position is not, you know, guaranteed. This is something that's changeable because we have free will. So the current energy is very accurate because it's describing where they are, whether that be on their soul's journey, where they are in terms of this certain situation, you know, where their goal is. And so based on that, you can see, well, this is where it's kind of the energy is moving. So I can see through the cards where the energy is moving to. And then as we discuss things, this is where the therapeutic part comes in, is that by opening up about what I see, they're able to connect and relate to what's coming through the cards. And so this is where it's like either some parts, if we've really had a great deep discussion about what's going on with them, then it's really much easier to pinpoint, you know, because that's where the intuition comes in, which things are highlighted in the cards that can really help them. Where sometimes if they're not kind of opening up, I'm seeing, you know, lots of things that could be pinpointed, but they're, you know, potential. So it could go this way, but there's another interpretation. So then I check in with them and see which direction, just like astrology, which direction are you kind of more in? Because this card can be interpreted as being sneaky or self-protective, right? And so those are very different energies, but kind of in the same realm. So I could say, oh, this card came up. Maybe you're feeling kind of self-protective when it comes to your ideas, or maybe you're being a little selfish when it comes to guarding your ideas, right? So that's where I would check in with them to see which part of the interpretation is really more accurate for you, because that will affect all of the other cards around them. And then that will highlight different things. Okay, well, if this is more of the energy that you're in, then this means this, and kind of connecting the symbolism from all of the cards that kind of relates them together. And there's a lot of astrology in tarot too. All of the astrological signs are represented. Every planet is represented by a card. So that's how a lot of people will say, oh, are you a Gemini? Or, or do you have someone who has a lot of air in their chart if you're doing a love reading, because there's a lot of air that's showing up in the chart. And so clients really love that. As an astrologer, you know that everyone is made up of a lot of things in their chart, not just one thing. So sometimes that can be a little tricky for people who are looking for those details, because we do have a lot more in our chart than just our sun sign, or, and so some things will dominate our chart more than others. So that can be interesting, but it's a great tool to help validate things for people. And just like with astrology, even if it's not like in terms of a love reading, even if the client or the person they're interested in doesn't have a lot of Gemini in their chart, it could just be the energy is represented by somebody who's really good at communication, or really desires communication, or has a lot of ideas and is a great thinker, and really connects through communication and ideas. So knowing those things can really play a part in a reading as well.
That is great. This is all great information. Now here comes a kind of funny question. And it might be a touchy question, but and you don't have to answer it, but I'm always curious, what is expected ethical behavior in a tarot reading? And of course, what is ethical?
Well, I would say that privacy, just like if you went to go see a therapist, I think it's really important that ethically, someone is coming to you to describe what's going on in their life, and that's a private matter. Just like you would with a friend, right? If they're coming to you with something that's really personal, and usually if someone's coming to a psychic or a tarot reader, this isn't something they feel comfortable talking to their everyday friends and family with normally, or they just feel, so I think it's really important that ethically you're able to hold the space for another person. I think that it's really important that readers and all spiritual teachers, which I think majority of people do, is that you're in a good space. Right. So I know that I'm not going to give a good reading if I'm not in a good space. So it's really important that people have that, I think it's important that people aren't so hooked on wanting to make the money or get the clients, that it's more about, I'm going to give the best reading when I'm in a really good place. And I want all of my readings to be the best readings and the most therapeutic. And of course, I can give them when I'm not at my best, but preferably to at least get into a vibrational state that is at your best, so that you can hold the space for another person. And of course, being private is important. I think just like therapists talk to therapists about their clients, the same is true for readers. Having somebody to discuss these your clients with is important in private as well, not by name or anything, but in terms of seeing connections between your clients and things like that. So, but I think that's really important that people keep your clients' personal information private. I think that ethically, it shouldn't be about money. That's another really big thing, is that especially with, this type of work expanding, and of course, money is a huge part of life. But the goal being to connect with your client and help them, right? The doctor's goal shouldn't be to make sure they get their big giant check. It should be that this patient is walking out of here feeling empowered, feeling healthy, feeling good, or has the tools to, really allow that into their own life. So coming from that angle, I think, is important. What
I have,
else?
let's move to the next one because it's part of this question number 7. So question number 8 is, what are signs that a tarot reader is disgenuine or a fraud? Are there signs? Because I'm going to give you an example. I called up somebody and they were asking me all these questions about my life. And I was kind of vague about answering them because I felt she was very intrusive. It was kind of like she was too rough, I guess, or too blunt. And then she started talking about a loved one that does not exist. And I'm laughing to myself. And then she said that I had some sort of a curse and I needed to have a longer reading. And and it was actually a free reading. It was one of those, because I said, oh, what's this about? Because I'm curious. And I said, well, thank you, but no, thank you. But then I was left with this question in my mind: how many people are taken for a ride, and it's not therapeutic, it's not for the highest good, totally unethical in my opinion.
Mhm.
So, but I mean, what are some things that you would warn us to be careful of so we don't continue?
Yeah.
You walk out, it's like getting a bad haircut. What do you
It-
do? Get up off the chair?
it's it's terrible. I've personally in my life experience had plenty of people who I did not connect with, and that I felt kind of taken advantage of, definitely. So I know there's lots of people out there that have had that experience, and that kind of makes me sad because there are lots of people who have a lot of experience who would be overlooked because there are people who have absolutely no experience, or their drive is money, and they think, oh, people are into, again, it's a fad, I can make money at this, so now I'm a psychic, and we'll just kind of go with that. So yeah, I've met tons of people like that, and I've met tons of people who are 100% really legitimate experience and really good at what they do. So luckily I've had a balance, so I know that both exist. I think that the first thing is that a majority of the people I find who are not who
Ethical.
are not ethical. I hate to even say that word necessarily, because I feel like it just comes from a place of not evolving spiritually, right? So they're obviously
Yeah.
still learning their own lessons. So I have a lot of compassion that goes out. Like, those people are obviously, but at the same time, I feel like it's really important that you connect with the person. So energy is so important. I've had so many readings where even if I felt that the person was good at what they did, we didn't really connect. And in order for my experience to be beneficial to me, it's really important that I feel connected to the reader. Because even if they're a good reader, if I don't feel connected, there's a lot that we're going to miss out on together. So, I've been to places where they just show like a picture, or, they tell you a name, they're in the back room, you sign up, and then you get in there and you see this person, and you really don't feel connected before the readings even started, but you've already signed up and you've paid, and you're going, well, and then you're already in it. So it's like, well, let's just see how this cookie crumbles. So I think energy is really important. Not just signing up with a reader that you've never met before. That's okay to do, but I think it's really good to kind of talk to the person. If you have YouTube and you can see what their style is like, seeing if they really connect and resonate, their style and techniques resonate with you. The second thing is readings where people tell you, oh, you got a curse. That is a guaranteed sign that they are not who they say they are. So in my mind, if someone says, oh, there's a curse on you, and for $20.99, I'll light a candle for you for the next 30 days and it'll lift the curse. So those kinds of things, I would say, are a sign that you're working with somebody who is not experienced or really in that field of spirituality at all. The other thing is it's important to ask somebody how much experience they have with reading, or even with being a psychic, right? And finding out their journey, just like you did with me. I think that can be a really great tool to kind of gauge where someone is in terms of their own spiritual journey, in terms of the work that they do, how passionate they really are about it. So those will give you, they can't really BS their way through their spiritual journey and, where they came to where they are in terms of their readings and stuff like that. So you can kind of, those questions will highlight, how they look at spirituality and the work that they do. The other thing is there's a lot of people out there, especially because it's become a trend and there's not really like a certification. There's a lot of people who are inexperienced who give readings. YouTube, that's a great way for people to practice their gifts. So there's nothing wrong. I wouldn't say they're unethical or, bad people, because they're not. They're just learning and trying to, see what see what they can do with it. But experience does play a huge part. Life experience, how someone sees, things, again, goes back to like good and bad. If someone is highlighting, if a tarot reader is highlighting just negative things, that's another sign that this is someone who is not very spiritually evolved and they're not experienced, probably with tarot. So anything that's hyper negative is going to be a clear indicator that you are not with someone who's experienced, because the whole point of tarot is for reflective purposes and for healing. So if you leave a reading feeling like disempowered or hurt, confused, those are not things that you should be walking away feeling. You should always walk away from a reading feeling empowered and inspired to reflect on the situation in a new light. There should definitely you should not be leaving feeling bummed out or down in the dumps, or if a reader is really focusing on the negative and they're not highlighting the other side, that's a really clear indicator that they're not experienced. Or like I said, just staying focused on negative and not showing the other side of things. And I don't know about psychics in particular, but negative stuff comes up, but the whole point is to work with the client through that stuff that's coming through and seeing the positive. So if they're not able to do that, I think that's a good sign.
Well, I know I had a important decision to make, or a set of decisions to make. And I called the psychic, but their answer didn't resonate with me. Like they told me, no, you're not going to do this. You don't want to do this. And I thought to myself, after the reading, I thought, no, I am going to do this. So in a way, it helps solidify, because I'm sort of like a maverick, I'm more independent and I think for myself, but she honestly helped me reach the decision, because I think it clarifies too. The readings clarify. So
Yes.
Going to the next question, what can I expect other than what you already said? So what can I expect during the reading? Like, or how long, like, is there a minimum time, a maximum time for a reading? And then what can I expect? I've never had a reading before. I just want people to understand, like, do you say, well, if you stay longer, I could tell you more? I mean, I don't know how you approach it.
So I usually do it for a 15-minute increment. I think for the most part, if someone is just coming for a quick reading, 15, 20 minutes is a decent amount of time. If you really want to go in depth or you have more than one question, of course, you're going to do 30 minutes. If you really just want to spend even more time going deeper and deeper, than an hour. So how I do it is I try to compact as much as I can in a 15-minute period. Now, if my client and I start talking and we're really getting somewhere, in depth, I'm going to want to extend that time. So I'm not going to cut the reading off if the person I'm working with is really getting somewhere or getting something, profound from the reading. So I will just naturally extend it until it feels complete. So once I
Gotcha.
feel complete, okay, we're both, you know, this client is understanding or is leaving feeling empowered, and, it's validating a lot of things, then they're ready to venture off. It's like if you go to go get some food, you don't want, you're not going to pay to just have a little taster, maybe you will tapas, but you want to leave feeling full. And so that's
Fulfilled.
kind of how I go about that. I think that readings are really great for validation, especially what we
Okay.
already know to be true. Like you were saying, I think that's probably one of the main things that people go to a reader for, is for validation. So when we're feeling, oh my goodness, I don't know, am I making the right choice? Like you were saying, is it this way or that way? What's the right decision here? We ultimately all always know at a deep level. And
Yep.
sometimes it's nice to just have someone else who is spiritual, who is grounded, who can hold the space for us while we work through what we want to do.
Yep.
And I think that that's probably, the best thing that you can get out of the reading, is having something validated, and again, feeling empowered to walk the path that you know is true for you.
This is a little side question, but I found this to be true with the work that I do. So many people get off course in their following their dream or their intention. And whether it's a parent or a friend that is maybe not a good friend, because they talk them out of what they really want to do. So then they're confused, and then they go to see a reader, astrologer, or whatever to get a more objective reading or a more objective outlook. And I think we're both saying the same thing, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So now, just to round it up, because we're almost at the end, how do you feel about the law of attraction or the power of suggestion as a reader?
I 100% believe in the law of attraction, and of course the law of
The
suggestion.
power of
The
power
power
of
of suggestion.
suggestion.
I think that suggestion is very powerful. I think that that's what makes tarot and psychic readers and everyone else so helpful, is because we are constantly being bombarded by other people's suggestions all the time, whether that be
Mm.
the radio, neighbors, friends, coworkers, employees, bosses, family. So there's constantly suggestions being made to us all the time: how to dress, who to be, what job to have. So all of that is just constant distractions from who we truly are, what we're truly capable of, what's possible, right? And all of that stuff really puts limits on us. And so
Yep.
that's, again, ties back what's so great about tarot, is it can really help us tap into the subconscious mind and, really reflect on all of those distractions in such a great way, and get that validation of, you're right, this, so and so said this, and there's a lot of doubt. We already have a lot of doubt inside of ourselves that we're constantly battling on our own inner distractions. So, I think that it's easy to just kind of be distracted. And that's why I think a lot of people do come to psychics and tarot readers, and myself included. I go see other psychics and tarot readers for the same thing, which is to be realigned with our true path. So there's plenty of times where I'm doing my own readings and it's hard for me to be objective in my readings, right? So that's where I'll go to someone else, because again, we all already know inside of ourselves, but sometimes with all the distractions, it's nice to have someone else hold the space and remind us, like, not to have doubt, because of the law of attraction, right? There's no limits. We can do anything we really want. That goes back to the free will, so we have free will to change and transform anything we desire. And the only limits that exist are the ones that we put there. And so I think that tarot can really be a powerful tool to help someone stay on the path, or being aware of what the distractions are, both inside of ourselves and outside of ourselves, so that we can make moves in a direction that is truly in alignment with who we are and what we want. I don't know if that answered it.
Yeah, it answered it. And we both feel the same way. I mean, I'm very mindful as to how I present a consultation because of that power of suggestion. But I just say that, your chart suggests, but really all it is really a set of opportunities or possibilities,
Mhm.
strong possibilities, strong talents. Well, so the other question I had is, and we already answered it, can I disagree with some of the tarot reading suggestions? Yes,
Definitely.
but because it helps clarify what we
Exactly.
went in there to do.
It's kind of like
Uh,
if you go to a hair salon and they cut your hair in a way that you don't like, it's really important that you say something to them before you leave, right? That they can fix it. The same is for a tarot reader, not that it's going to be messed up and they need to be fixed, but there might have been a disconnect or a lack of understanding of where the client was coming from, or vice versa. What, maybe they need additional clarification on something. And I think that sometimes people can be a little scared or nervous. Oh, this part didn't really resonate, and so they'll get quiet and think maybe none of this is really accurate. Where the more that you're really able to open up and be vulnerable and express what really resonated and what didn't, allows the reader or astrologer or psychic an opportunity to look in other, a different perspective, right? So it's all about perspective. And, there's other ways, like I ask clients all the time if they feel, that this was messages were clear, is there anything I can clarify for you more? And I always hope that they feel comfortable being vulnerable enough to ask those questions, because sometimes people are nervous, like, especially when it comes to love questions, almost like there's this embarrassment, or maybe I shouldn't ask because it's silly, and that's what you're here for. So I think it's really important that people do ask questions, and if they feel like it doesn't resonate, not to just walk out the door, but to get clarity and see if there's something that they, something more that they can get from the reader and the experience. And if the reader's good, they're going to want to help with that.
Do you like feedback from your clients?
I love feedback from my clients. I
Well,
find it
how would they give you the feedback?
so typically I will get feedback right there and then. So I'll ask my clients how they felt about the reading. And I can usually gauge, how sometimes they're still processing.
Yeah,
Sometimes
but
I can kind of tell someone's a little, so I usually will ask then and there. And I give them, my information. If they have any questions, they can always contact me later, to
okay,
give me more feedback. And
okay,
then when I'm working at like an establishment, I'll go down to the register and I'll talk to the girl who checked out the person and say, hey, what did they give you any feedback? What did they say? Was it positive? And so I'll kind of gauge from that too, from other people who are witnessing the client leave. Did they look relieved? Those kinds of things.
so you welcome people after like a week later and say, I really enjoyed your reading, and it was very helpful because this situation turned out like this or like that. So
Yes, it's so good. And sometimes, I guess I'm partially in some sort of a trance while I'm giving the reading. So, once the client leaves, the certain pieces will stay with me from a reading, but then, you do so many readings, I don't remember necessarily what that exact reading was until they contact me later and they're telling me, like you said, oh, this part really did resonate. And it brings that whole storyline and that whole client's experience back to the forefront of my mind.
well, this has been really helpful, and I thank you again for sharing all this information. But one thing, I want to get really deep on this one. This will be our last question. When I ask, where do you get the answers. I could tell you where I get some of my answers. And now some people call it the Akashic records, and that's kind of a whole nother topic. However, I feel that I'm connected to the invisible realm, the positive invisible realm, and whether they're angels, spirit guides, animal totems, it doesn't really matter. But then they sort of kind of move through me and speak to me either through words, through images, through feelings. And that's how I try to explain for the for people like me that are scientific and say, well, how does that happen? You know, how does she just, so I also feel that this energy that's all around us that we don't see also helps manipulate the cards, as crazy as that sounds, because there is a randomness, but with the law of attraction and quantum physics and that whole world, a lot of things are happening that we don't really understand 100%. And we may never understand, but they are happening. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I don't know if you agree or not, but that's how it works for me.
I definitely agree with you on that. 100%.
Okay. So so then we do have the free will and whatever comes through. And if I know if I get sort of queasy feeling like this isn't right, you know, I just don't feel right, then I could just say, you know, I want to end the reading. Or if it feels really good, I would ask, can I continue with the reading or call you back at another time?
Hmm. I think
I
that
know
you can almost take away, you know, we have the ability to choose to take away something informative or insightful from any situation, including a psychic experience that we may not 100% resonate with right away. We can choose to take certain things. Like there's always going to be something that comes up that we do need, right? In life in general, every moment is bringing us something. And so that
I will
same comes through the readings, I feel.
when I was doing a lot of psychic readings, I found it very interesting. The questions that they asked were not really the root of the issue, but
Hmm.
the cards would always bring up the root of what had to be discussed. The cards always did it without a doubt. So that's kind of what, you know, these questions were geared to kind of reveal, like, you know, you might be shy about asking what you really think, but
Yes.
somehow the universe out there knows your heart, knows what you're feeling, knows the struggles, knows the answers that you're looking for, and knows that you need help.
Hmm.
And the cards always lay it out, especially the Akashic tarot cards that I use. Even though I only use one card, I haven't even learned how to do the rest of it. One is enough. I do that at the end of an astrology reading. And my clients are always saying, oh my gosh, you were right. How does that happen? It's just that one card will summarize the whole reading
Hmm.
or the whole consultation. I
Yeah.
like to use the word consultation because reading implies that I'm giving all the answers. This is just me. But consultation is where we dialogue. So
Hmm.
I know that you like the dialogue, and I just want to, you know, make sure that people understand that it's a two-way street, folks. If you
That's
want to
right.
maximize your readings, you know, get engaged, because with me, the more you speak, your vibration, that energy,
Hmm.
your voice kind of just activates the back, you know, the back side of the reading, the back room part of the reading with all the guides. And sometimes I get the messages that come in so quickly, I can't get it out fast enough. That's where I'm channeling. And but that's another topic. But I just want people to know that it is real. You can benefit tremendously. I think these readings have saved me more than other modalities that I won't get into right now. But I highly recommend that you see Sierra if you're thinking, if you're new, especially, and you're on the fence, see Sierra because you know where she's coming from. Oh, what is the best way to contact you, Sierra? So if anyone does want a reading,
Yeah. The best way to contact me is through email. I'm working on a website for clients to be able to just book their own sessions. But for right now, just emailing me is the best way at soulshinerss@gmail.com. So that's soulshinerss@gmail.com. Bit long, but
Okay, so I'm gonna repeat it, you guys. So it's soul, like your soul, shining like the light, SS, two S's,
Mhm.
at gmail.com. So, and if you have any questions and you don't remember, just put it in my comments below and I'll get you hooked up with Sierra. Sierra, I thank you so much. We're
Thank
going to
you.
end this recording and thank you, everybody. We'll talk soon.